Let me first, on behalf of St. James Missionary Baptist Church, welcome you all to our humble abode here. Amen. And we're just so thankful that you come out tonight, and thank the mayor and the staff for coming out and having the town hall meeting here. So, whatever we have here is yours tonight. And we just certainly extend the warmest welcome that we possibly can, and hope that this meeting will be beneficial to everyone. And so at this time, I will just turn it over to the mayor and his team to begin the meeting. But once again, on behalf of this church fellowship, for 148 years being here in this community, we want to say thank you for coming.
Well, I certainly want to thank Pastor Smith and the St. James Baptist Church for certainly graciously allowing us to have our town hall meeting in this great facility. And so I wanted to recap some of the things that we have done since the last town hall meeting, which was around 6 months ago. Last one, I believe, was in March. So from April till now, I will give you a recap of some of the things that we have accomplished in the city, some of the discussions we've had, some of the votes that was taken by the city council. Let's start with the month of April. The month of April was the month that we sold the Tyson's facility, the old Tyson's building down there, and now we are making that another business is going there. Come and Go is going in there. In May, the city council passed the Woolsey Family Homestead resolution to study on how we can preserve that farm. Let's see, in June was the 5-year lease of the patio around the old post office. Some of this stuff I'd forgotten about. I went to recapping the city council minutes. In July, there was an ordinance passed to better control door-to-door solicitation. We also passed a resolution on the National Revenue Neutral Carbon Fee Dividend support from the City Council. In August, we passed the special election for the HMR bond to, one, extend town hall bonds if the people pass these initiatives, and two, which will allow for the funding of the WAC, which is Walton Arts Center expansion, which is $6.9 million, and number 3 on the ballot will be funding for the regional park of $3.5 million. Also that month, in August, we passed the funding for the expansion of the Lights of the Ozarks, which will take it from the square now down Block Street and Dixon Street. So the Lights of the Ozarks will be expanding. So I certainly want to thank the council for doing that. In September was the regulation of the wheel clamps and the booting ordinance. We also are looking at a study of the feasibility for interdepartmental resource efficiency loans. And in the month of September, we opened up the new recycling center just off North Street over here. For the future, some of the things that we're going to be looking at, City Council will be looking at, and staff and this administration will be, there is a height limitation ordinance coming to the City Council. The flyover is under construction out by the mall. It's due to be completed by 2014. The roundabout is completed, same area. The deck is scheduled to begin work in 2014. The Van Ash extension due to start in 2014, which will be a connection from the Sam's Club to the mall. Rupel Road, we're looking at that being scheduled for 2015. Will be from MLK all the way to Mount Comfort. Sidewalk program. Right now, we've been putting about $500,000 a year in sidewalks, and that's going to go to, we want to expand that to $1.3 million, about $800,000 more per year. So we'll be looking at tripling sidewalk production. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to get that many feet because it depends on your terrain, but that is the goal, to take it from 12,000 running feet to 36,000 running feet. the economic development end of it, we have seen 67 new businesses and over 300 jobs since January. I also want to take the time to recognize, I see Mark Kenyon from Ward 2, I see Alan Long from Ward 4, and Rhonda Adams from Ward 4. Thank you all for being here. Now, that's what I have as the overall report from the mayor. Now, let's see, what else? Oh, wait a minute. We're also looking at the urban agri ordinance, which is of interest to a lot of people. And we also have started our wayfinding signage program, which you're beginning to see all over town. At this time, I will turn over the reports from each department head, and we will start with Paul Becker from Finance.
Good evening. For purposes of introduction, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Paul Becker. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the City of Fayetteville. Traditionally, we begin the budget process in September. We begin the budget process by looking at the levy, or how much in property taxes is extended on property taxes throughout the city. We look at the general fund, so to demonstrate whether or not how much we need to extend for property taxes throughout the city. Here's the mayor's recommendation to the council, is that we continue the same millage rate as that we have had in the past. That's 3.1 mil overall for the city. However, the city general fund gets 1.3 mil of that. 0.4 mil goes to the old fire pension plan, 0.4 mil to the old police pension plan, and 1 mil goes to the library. So the city gets 1.3 mils in the general fund. Now that generates about $1,700,000 toward funding in the general fund. This year, right now, we expect the general fund to be about $37.4 million. That's up from $36.1 million last year. The reason it's up is due to salary increases, which the mayor recommended, and the council approved beginning in the first quarter this year. It also will pay for some additional pension costs for the police and fire LAPI program. We anticipate some fuel increases. We also anticipate and have granted a few increases to outside agencies being Senior Center, which we're granting an increase to, the Boys and Girls Club. So those are some of the outside entities, plus the library. We've increased our funding to the library, which we do each year. Therefore, based on that, we feel that we need to continue the millage. Again, the millage raises about $1.7 million. Now, the key indicator and the key factor in the general fund is when we look at sales tax. Sales tax this year has been doing pretty good. Right now, we're averaging about 3.5 to 3.8% increase between now and the end of the year as compared to last year. That will help fund a lot of our increases. We had to increase the budget, as I said, about $1.6 million this year. Sales tax will help fund that, but we're also looking at some increases in other sources. We do, however, want to keep the property taxes consistent at their previous levels. Hopefully, we'll be able to put some money for contingency and salary. We're looking at putting in maybe $300,000 to $400,000 at this point in time. Now, that's contingent on how we finish the end of the year, how we finish 2013, what our fund balance position looks at that point in time, whether or not we have a surplus this year, and how revenue is looking moving forward to next year. So we're going to use the same approach that the mayor has since he's been in office, and that is to look at salaries in the first quarter of the year, make a recommendation to the council on whether or not he feels we can afford salaries. If so, how much? The council will certainly look at it very carefully, and decide if in fact they feel that that's appropriate at that point in time. So we don't have salaries in the budget per se. We're going to look at what happens in the first quarter of next year and make a decision at that point in time. I think that's very, very prudent. And like I say, at this point in time, we're anticipating we'll finish out about 3.5 to 3.8% increase in sales tax at the end of this year, and we are anticipating seeing about 2% increase next year. 2% didn't come out of a hat. 2% is generally, at least from the conferences that the mayor and I and most of the finance people I know have looked at, talk about a real GNP growth of between 1.5% and 2% moving forward next year. So that's what we're basing that increase on. Generally, that'll be inflationary more than anything, but we feel that's a conservative approach at this point in time. Again, we're all going to look at that later in the year. We have a meeting scheduled for the council on November 9th at City Hall, and the public is welcome to come. And we'll hash out and look at the full budget at that point in time. But the first move we have to make now is for the council to decide on the millage for next year. That has to be done by the end of October. So that's where we are now and what we plan to do moving forward. And that's all I have at this point.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Terry?
Yes, I'm Terry Gilley. I'm the Transportation Services Director for the city. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about a new program we're doing for street preservation, and that is microsurfacing. And I'll give you a little background on what all that entails. One thing, and one reason we got to looking into this is it's a way to reduce the cost of our mill and overlay program. We're determining that we can save around 40% on a street as compared to milling 2 inches of asphalt and replacing it with 2 full inches of asphalt. So what we do in this case is, of a street, this is kind of a street before that we determined fit the profile for this treatment. And you can kind of see through it. There's a green button on the top. All right. Like right in here, we went through and we crack sealed any cracks down through here that were 1/4 inch or less in width. We could fill with the crack sealant, and then you smooth that off as you do that. And it kind of puts a different look on the street. It kind of looks like a patchwork quilt a little bit by doing that. But the purpose of this is to go in and give a clean, smooth surface. We go in there, or the company comes in, weed eats the grass you can see in the cracks, removes all the debris, blows it clean after we do the crack sealing, and then they will come in and start putting the treatment on. And the big advantages to this is it reseals the asphalt. You're picking asphalt that does not have soft spots, have not yet developed any heavy cracking. They do not have potholes. If we do have a soft spot, we can repair that prior to that and do all those repairs. But you still have to pick asphalt streets are in good condition. These are approximately 10, 12 years old. They've not deteriorated very far, so they're very good candidates for this. You can kind of see there's a lot of graying on the asphalt. It's not really black anymore, which means it's losing some of its asphalt content. And so this process is kind of a rejuvenation process where it adds that oil back into the system, and it'll help refurbish the asphalts there, plus it puts on about a 3/8 inch thickness of essentially really fine rock, some cement, the asphalt emulsion, and then it's all mixed together and then spread. It kind of comes out, some of the old ways was called slurry seal, but it comes out and they spread it, and you'll see that here in a minute. I'll go. This is an example here. This is in the lower right is the truck that applies this. It kind of just has a trough on the back of it that pulls along and leaves this thin coat. Then they'll have several workers there that will essentially move this almost with squeegees, and they'll smooth it around. And you can kind of see here a little bit right behind the truck, it almost looks brown. Well, that's due to the water being mixed in to help give it enough flexibility to move it around. The water evaporates out fairly quickly, and within 30 minutes it turns black. So it's the water being mixed in there that gives it that brown color. You can see here up in the upper left, the right side where the sun's on it is brown, and the other is already starting to turn black. This is a cul-de-sac We were working an area out off Salem Road by Bryce Davis Park and behind the Harps out on West Weddington. What we do is that we have a contract with this for a company to come in and do it. We do not have this type of equipment, but they come in, they do handouts the day prior to working on your street. They knock on doors the morning of. They'll give you a time period of when you can and cannot go and when you've got to get out of your house or you're kind of stuck there, but we give a lot of advance warning to that. Approximately 2 hours after the application is applied, they'll allow traffic back on it and you can get out of there. The minimal, if you're on these type of streets, the minimum amount of setting still and turning your steering wheel really helps us out, because that's what the process that does the most damage, because it's still setting up. But I'll give you some more examples here. There's another application where the truck's pulling the sled behind it and it's spreading that out. The lower right shows you where we've done the left half of the street and the right half is still yet to be done. But it makes a stark difference in the way it looks. This is a close-up of it where you can see the crack ceiling was done and all that, and all those repairs prior to this application just disappeared. You can see it's a nice, neat, clean finish. This one in the bottom here, you can see where it's applied in the top and not yet in the bottom. It's just a close-up of that. There again, one half of the street done, one not. It makes a marked difference on the look of it. To most people, if you left in the morning, came back in the afternoon, you really couldn't hardly tell the difference whether we had done this or milled and overlaid your street, and we looked like we were really quick. And this is an example of the finished product where they've done both sides and the cross street. And you can see from the sheen down here on the bottom that it gives a good seal, and that's what we're after. Is the big thing in asphalt and keeping your asphalt in good condition is keeping the water from penetrating through the asphalt and getting down into the subbase. If the subbase doesn't get wet and doesn't fail, your asphalt on the surface stays in good shape. Another example of a finished product, essentially gives a brand new look to that street. It looks like it just been put there for the first time. And this is just an example of, or a list of the streets out in the western part of town that we've done. In this particular group, we also, about 2 months ago, we did the Summerhill neighborhood on the northeast part of town, parts of Old Missouri, and East Ash Street. And actually Market Street over by where Blockbuster used to be, over by Hobby Lobby. But there'll be more of this coming in the future. We're looking at expanding it in the future. It allows us to take good streets that just need some reconditioning and make them look new again. And we're hopefully get to extend the life of these streets by an additional 9 years. Like I said, at a 40% savings in the cost of doing it the traditional way we've done it in the past. So anyway, that's all I've got on that.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Brown. I'm the city engineer. I'm going to talk a little bit about the transportation bond program. It's a program that was approved in 2006 by voters. It's about a $65.9 million program. We're authorized to issue bonds up to that amount. We've been able to leverage that for an additional $25 million in federal aid funding, so about $90 million worth of projects. 6 projects have been completed. We have 5 more under construction. A couple of them, Cato Springs Road and Highway 265, are complete or nearing, very near to completion. Other projects under construction are Highway 112, just outside the door here. Highway 16 from Happy Hollow out to Stonebridge Road. And then, as the mayor mentioned, the flyover project. That's a project that I've not heard anybody say one bad thing about it. Even my wife, who's my harshest critic, has given me good feedback about it. So I know that we've done something right with that one when I hear that. It's a very, very nice project, and got a really good contractor. I want to compliment them again. I compliment them every chance I get, but they've done a really, really good job, and I expect them to continue to do that. Recently, the council approved another $22 million in bonds. So we'll be able to move forward with our third phase of projects. And again, as the mayor mentioned, Van Ash is one that's really first on our agenda to get that extension under construction, hopefully in early 2014. Rupel Road extension is also, the mayor mentioned that one also. He said 2015. We may be able to get it going just a little bit sooner than that, but very late 2014 or 2015 is realistic. And then in future years, we'll have some additional projects, Zion Road, Old Wire Road, and then enhancements to College Avenue, similar to what we did under the first phase. We'll continue on up from Maple Street up to North Street. We're also continuing to pursue federal aid funding using these bonds as matching money. We actually put in 4 applications for additional funding just recently. So I expect at least some of those will be funded, so we'll again be able to extend our dollars even further. Lastly, these are not bond projects, but I know they're of interest to many people. The I-540 improvements that the Highway Department is undertaking, the Weddington to Porter Road widening they're just getting started with that project. The contractor's out there and they're setting up. That's about a $16 million project to widen between Weddington and Porter Road, replace both bridges over the Porter Road exit. And then in 2015 is when the fund really begins. The Weddington interchange, the Highway 62 interchange, and the Highway 71B 112 interchange are all scheduled to start in 2015. So forget about driving I-540 during that period of time. The Weddington interchange is about a $20 million estimate. 62 is $25 million. And then the 71B 112 interchange is estimated at $55 million. So a very, very large investment on I-540 that the Highway Department is making. That's just in Fayetteville. That's extending really all the way up through Bella Vista on 540. So those projects are coming, and that the department really did a pretty good job with the first section that they worked on between 62 and Weddington. A lot of that work was done at night. They were able to avoid a lot of additional traffic tie-ups. So I expect they're going to do some of those same sort of things, but they are planning to replace the bridge, again, on Porter Road. They're going to be replacing the 112 bridge over the highway. So obviously there will be some traffic tie-ups when those things are happening, but again, it's a large investment. It will take some time, but we expect to really see those improvements coming in 2017, 2018. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Pugh, and I'm the Waste Reduction Coordinator for the City of Fayetteville. And I was asked to come and talk about the new Marion Orton Recycling Center, which is opened up now basically right across the street from us here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to discuss some of the things that we've got going on in our solid waste division. We opened up the site a few weeks ago. It's located at 735 West North Street, which is basically right by the trail crossing on North Street. Marion Orton was a mayor in Fayetteville back in the 70s, and she was one of the early pioneers of recycling in Fayetteville. So the mayor felt it was to honor her legacy on recycling that we should name the center after her. This is actually the second site, and Rhonda, I'm sorry to leave you out of this, but this is actually the second recycling drop-off site that the city operates. We currently have a site located at our solid waste division, which is over off of South Happy Hollow Road. 1560 South Happy Hollow Road is where the solid waste division is at. Out in front of that location, there is a recycling drop-off that is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, gets used quite heavily. But we felt like we needed to move our recycling drop-off centers around town so we can make it easier for people to participate in our recycling program. And the site that was located right across the street here was a city-owned parcel of land that is surrounded by a lot of apartment complexes. And so with our apartment program that we've started, which I'll mention here briefly in a little bit, another aspect of that is making it convenient for people to be close to a recycling option. And so having all these apartments around this center is going to enable us to go out and try to educate these tenants in these apartment complexes and let them know that there's recycling options basically right around the corner from them. So that was one of the main things that we liked about this location. Being in the center of town, allowing people to easily access it was also another. This site, however, is a little bit different in the respect that it will have set hours. It's not open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it is open from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Wednesday and Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. The only day that the hours are different are on Thursdays, and that's from 6 a.m.